All right, hi everyone. So we're going to be continuing our discussion about classes and objects, and now we're going to be talking about object aliases. All right. So again, there's a reference to Chapter 6 in the beginning Java 8 Fundamentals book right there. You can get it from the York U Library. All right, so what's object aliasing? Well, let's start off with a little discussion about variables. So we have an integer here, I. I has a value of 3. Then we have another integer. It's called j, and it has, well, we're going to assign it the same stuff that was in I. So we're going to basically take 3 right there and shove it into j. Okay, and so if we print that out, we're going to see that I and j have the same value. They're not the same variable, but they have the same value. I is equal to 3, j is equal to 3. Now if I say k is equal to 3, like that, so I've got 3 variables, I, j, and k. I had a value of 3. We made that 3 get transferred over into j. So j is now 3. Then we have basically k being 3 as well. So each of them has a value of 3. Okay, and so you'll see that you print this out, and basically it'll say that the value in k is the same as the value in I, and the value in k is the same that's in the value of j. So they all have the same values. Basically what's going on is that we're not making j and I the same. What we're saying is that the value assigned to j and the value assigned to I are the same. We're copying numbers. So here, what we're saying is that we're giving j a copy of the number 3 that was given to I. Okay, so basically what we've got are 3 different pieces of memory that each have the same value, numeric value in them. Okay, they all just happen to have the same value of 3, and so their values are the same. Now, let's try something with objects here. So I say point P1, so this is a new object, so this is the P1 object. Okay, and it's being given x and y values of 2 and 3. Now I say P2 is equal to P1, so I'm saying I've got an object P1, and I want to make P2, the object P2, the same as P1. All right? Now, if I do a system out print line, P1 is equal to P2, it'll say that it's true, okay, that P1 and P2 are the same values, but they're the same objects. It's kind of weird, right? So then we say point P3 is equal to a set of, where we're basically making a new object with values starting at 2 and 3. So x is 2 and 3 is y, and we're making a new object called P3. And then we say system out print line, P3 is going to be equal, is P3 equal to P1, and or P3 is it equal to P2? That's what we're asking here. And what we're going to find out here is that it's false. Now, why? What's going on here? Okay, especially if we then compare values in P3 and P1 and P3 and P1. Okay, so if we're comparing the x value in P3 and the x value in P1, and the y value in P3 and the y value in P1, those are going to be the same. You'll end up getting a true value right there. And the question becomes, why? Why is it like that? And the same thing here. You'll see those values, those x values for P3, P2, and y values of P3 and P2 are true as well. And so basically what's going on here is that line 2 copies the address stored in P1 to P2. That's kind of confusing too, right? It's kind of weird. So both P1 and P2 refer to the same object in memory. P3, whose contents are the same as P1 and P2, refer to different objects in memory. Let's see if we can have a look at this. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created, I've taken the class, defined it within JShell, and then I said point P1 is equal to point, is a new point, I'm using the constructor here, of values 2 and 3. And then it says that P1 has an address, okay, that's the address for P1. And then I say P2 is equal to P1. So then P2 is given this address. This address is the same as the address for P1. Effectively, we're making an alias, okay? We're saying that there's only one actual object. It's the one that's located at this location of memory right here, but we can access it using P1 or P2. but there's only one object. It's this object right here. It's the one that's located physically in this location of memory. Now, if I do P3, I say a new point with values of 2 and 3. I say, and then it returns back and it says P3 has an address. This is the address. Now, if I look at this, I say 26A1AB54. You're not supposed to actually know what that means. Okay, but it's an address. It's different than this address. It's different than the address for P2, and P2 and P1 share the same address. It is different than the address for P3. So basically when I ask, is P3 equal to P1? Well, that's false. Is P3 equal to P2? Again, that's false. They might have the same initial conditions. They might have the same characteristics internally because we've assigned them point values of x and y of 2 and 3. But that's just a coincidence. The actual objects themselves are different because their addresses where they're located is different. Okay, so yes, I can see that P1 value of x and P3 value of x are the same. P3 value of y and P2 value of y are the same. That's true, but because the addresses are different, the actual objects can't be the same. Okay, so that's what's going on right here. All right, let's continue along. So let's look at assignments to primitive variables. So if we've got I1, I2, and I3, each valued at 1, 2, and 3 respectively, then I create an array. Okay, and that array is called numbers 1, right there. Whoops. That. And it has the values I1, I2, and I3, so 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Then I set up a new array called numbers 2, and I'm not going to assign any values to it, but I'm going to make the same length as numbers 1. Okay, so it's going to have the same length. So I'll have 3 empty values in it. Then I'm going to fill numbers 2 with the values from numbers 1. That's what this for loop is going to do. And then, so basically at that point, numbers 1, just before I do line 9, numbers 1 and numbers 2 will be each 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. So numbers 1 and numbers 2, those two variables, which are arrays, are going to have the values 1, 2, and 3 in them. Then I say, take the 0th element, so this one right here, and set it to 4. Okay, that's what's going on right here. Okay. Then I print out numbers 1 at point 0, and that should print out the value 4. Then I print out numbers 2, and that should be at position 0, okay, and that should be 1. Let's take a look at it in JShell. Okay, so I've done it right here, and you can see I1, I2, and I3 are values of 1, 2, and 3. When I initialize numbers 1, it has 1, 2, and 3 in it. When I initialize numbers 2 in it, it has 0, 0, 0 in it. Then I run my for loop through there, and it reconfigures numbers 2, so that has 1, 2, and 3 in it. Then I put 4, that's what this is right here. I put 4 in position 0 of numbers 1 right there. All right, so that puts 4 in it. Then I print it out, and it prints out 4 right there. Then I print out numbers 2 at position 0, and it has 1 in it. Basically what we're saying here is that there are two completely separate variables, numbers 1 and numbers 2. They coincidentally have the same values basically at the end of the for loop right here, because I use the for loop to populate numbers 2. But afterwards, as soon as I start making changes to numbers 1, they no longer have any connections to one another. Okay, they're basically independent of each other. They are not aliases of one or the other. All right, so let's consider assignments to reference variables. Okay, so reference variables are ones that have memory we're talking about memory locations basically. Okay, so here we've got the person class that we've been talking about earlier, and I'm going to make 4 objects: Alan, Mark, Tom, and Jim. Each of these are objects, and we're going to call the constructor for them so that we name the first one Alan, we name the second one Mark, we name the third one Tom, and we name the fourth one Jim. These are the 4 constructors being called one after the other for Alan, Mark, Tom, and Jim. All right, then I create an array of type person. Okay, so it's basically a list. And I call the first array persons1, and it contains the objects Alan, Mark, and Tom. Then I say persons to a new object, okay, of an array of type person is going to be basically empty, but it will have the same length as persons 1. That's what this does right here. Then I'm going to fill it. So just what I did in the last example. So I'm going to fill it. So I'm going to say that each element in persons 2 is going to be assigned the value or the object from persons 1. So it'll be Alan, Mark, and Tom that will be in persons 2 when the for loop is done. Okay? So the for loop is done at this point, and then what I say is persons 1 position 0 is going to be set an age of 70. So we're going to set the age of Alan to 70, which we hadn't done before in the constructor. Then we're going to print out Jim's age. Now Jim hasn't been assigned an age, so it will Jim, the object, will have an age of 0. From there, we're going to ask for Alan's age. What is Alan's age? Well, that was the 0th position of that array. We set Alan's age here to 70, so that should print out as 70. And then we're going to print out the value for whatever was in the position 0 of persons 2, which should also be Alan. Okay, so that should be let's see. That should be 70. Okay, and then we're going to say that person 1 at position 0 is now Jim. Okay, and we're going to set Jim's age to 75. So Alan had an age of 70. Jim is now going to have a value of 75. And we're going to print out Jim's age, and then we're going to print out Alan's age. Okay, and then we're going to print out the age for the object at position 0 in the list persons 2, which should be Alan, not Jim. Let's take a look at this in the Java shell. Okay, so what we've got here is we set up our 2 arrays, okay, of type person. Okay, so initially it's this is Alan, Mark, that's Mark, and that's Tom. Oops, right there, that's Tom. And then in person 2, there's nothing. Then what we say is, let me see, so this is system out Jim's age. So Jim's age is 0 right there because we haven't assigned a value for Jim. Then we say system print out Alan's age, and that's 70. Then we say print out the age for whatever the object is in list persons 2 at position 0, which is Alan, and that will give us 70. Then we make a change. And here what we're doing is we're saying that instead of Alan at position 0 in persons 1 list, we're going to put Jim. I believe that's what that is right there. And then we're going to set Jim's age, because Jim is in position 0, to 75. Then we're going to print out Jim's age, and that's 75 right there. Then we print out Alan's age, which you'd set earlier, and that's 70. Then we're going to print out the value of the age for the object at position 0 for persons 2. That's the age right there. And that's Alan, because we didn't change Alan out. So Alan in person 2, Alan will be here. Then it will be Mark replaces the null there. And then Tom replaces the null there in persons 2. So Alan's here. We're asking for position 0. That'll give us a value of 70.